It's Friday, June 7th, 2024. Start off as we always do now. I can say always. There's a certain amount of times when you say often and then you transition always over to always. I think at this point we can say always. What we always do at the beginning, which is our promotional segment, which is where I tell you very simply, very succinctly, that if you'd like to support our show, then all you need to do is go to supportourshow.com. The one additional thing that you will not find on that page, if you are so inclined to try out the podcasting game, nobody calls it that, is you can use the code Ozone, O-Z-O-N-E, just like the beginning of the show title, over on Libsyn for 2 months free as far as I know. If that code no longer works and you try it, let me know and I will stop saying it. But so far, either nobody's used it or it's still working. I hope it's still working because, hey, why not? Free stuff. Try it out. So that there ends the promotional segment, which paradoxically somehow is still longer than it should be for having a single address, but I somehow drag these things out. So, I had an interesting little thing, just curious what your opinion on this is. Recently, you being Lando, not you being, the audience too, but you being Lando. Recently, apparently, and I didn't read the official, let me see, I should have pulled up, let's see.
Just give it to me.
Because, of course, everything is AI now, because that's the world we live in, where there is nothing that can't be related to AI. There was an announcement that Instagram...
I have stuff to talk about that has nothing to do with AI.
No, what I'm saying, in the larger world beyond us...
I know, it's popular right now.
Boy, is it, let me tell you. It's anyway. So, Instagram is, of course, a subsidiary product of Facebook, which is a subsidiary itself of Meta, which is run by Mark Zuckerberg, who's a scumbag, allegedly, in my opinion. But Instagram has, for a while now, been one of a few really popular and effective places to post artwork. It's where a lot of people look for it. They're not the only one.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I know that
one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people post tattoo stuff and things on there as well. Yeah,
and it makes sense because it's at the time it was originally brought around. It was related to Facebook, which was still extremely popular. So it's just kind of carried its momentum forward. But recently there was an announcement or some kind of thing that people found where and this makes sense, is Meta is, as part of its AI portfolio, going to be employing scraping of everything on Instagram and ingestion of it with their AI tools, which makes complete sense.
That doesn't surprise me.
Not a surprise. And so what happened was, in a response to that, there was for all intents and purposes, a copycat type site created called Cara.app. That's C-A-R-A.app. And this is an independent app that was created that is specifically barring. Now, I don't know how they actually do this. I don't know if this is a good faith thing or what, because I don't really know how they know. But Cara basically is saying, well, we're Instagram without the AI. And so a lot of people who are very, very anti-AI, which is a lot of people, are basically, their thing is, well, just abandon Instagram and go over to Cara because they're anti-AI and, this is a place where you can post your art and not worry about it being ingested and then
Whatever happened to
stolen.
like DeviantArt and shit like that?
DeviantArt has. I actually just deleted my DeviantArt account because the people running it sound like real shitbags now. I mean, we've talked about this to some degree. This is what happens with almost anything. Is eventually somebody with, I mean, how many ethics? Usually when it starts small, there are some ethics and morals in place by the founders because they're usually doing it in good faith. But once it gains some popularity and it has enough numbers, a larger fish with no regard for anything comes along and says, oh, there's people we can make money off of. We'll be buying you now.
Well, yeah, that's yeah. This usually happens. It's not just a website. This happens with
No,
any product.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, any product.
Yeah.
If it gets big enough, somebody will eventually step in and say, I want to buy this from you. And the
Yes.
person who created it goes, okay, go ahead, because it,
But
it's-
it is somewhat more. It is somewhat more nakedly obvious within the tech space because of the speed and the intent for it. Meaning that you got two people in a garage that think of something and they realize there's an audience and they create a platform with the intent for it to be sold as soon as possible so they can make a bunch of money and get out. A lot of other traditional businesses don't work as quickly that way. Usually you have to be doing something for 10, 15.
Netflix tried to sell to Blockbuster early on.
Right, boy, Blockbuster,
And-
whoever was in
and
charge
Blockbuster
of that.
was like, no, your company's losing money. You're a joke. We don't need you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the mission statement from Kara, just as what they say. Kara is a social media and portfolio platform for artists. With the widespread use of generative AI, we decided to build a place that filters out generative AI images so that people who want to find authentic creatives and artwork can do so easily. Many platforms currently accept AI art when it's not ethical, while others have promised no AI forever policies without consideration for the scenario where adoption of such technologies may happen at the workplace in the coming years. I don't really know what that paragraph necessarily is talking about. Yeah, because they almost say that you can't have a no AI forever policy, which they themselves are saying they're doing. That's a weird middle paragraph. So I don't know if that's just because the people writing this don't know what they're saying.
They're implying that AI is never going to get, or machine learning, let's call it what it is. Machine learning is never going to get good enough to trick them.
So it goes on. The future of creative industries requires nuanced understanding and support to help artists and companies connect and work together. We want to bridge the gap and build a platform that we would enjoy using as creatives ourselves. That one seems to indicate that they're aware that you can't just have no AI. So I think maybe that's what the second paragraph is leading up to, but the fact they broke it apart, I think that should have just all been one thing. Again, these people may not necessarily be the best writers who are creating it. That's fine. So, and finally, their bullet points. Our stance on AI. First, we do not agree with generative AI tools in their current unethical form, and we won't host AI-generated portfolios unless the rampant ethical and data privacy issues around data sets are resolved via regulation. That could take forever. Second bullet point. In the event that legislation is passed to clearly protect artists, we believe that AI-generated content should always be clearly labeled because the public should always be able to search for human-made art and media easily. That part I completely agree with. I think the labeling is a vital part. But nothing about this really specifies how they're filtering it. So either I've missed it, and I just don't know how they're doing it. Because one interesting thing is they do have a tool called Glaze that appears to be built into their platform. And I don't know if you know what Glaze is. Do you have any idea what that is?
No, what is Glaze?
All right, okay. So Glaze, in essence, is a piece of software that you can run. There was another one before this that I think wasn't quite as good at it, but it's a heavyweight piece of software. And what it does is it injects all this anti-AI stuff into your images so that they cannot be scraped. The problem is
interesting.
to do one image at the highest quality might destroy your machine for like 3 days. It's heavyweight because it's breaking the image. Oh yeah, it's
basically it's like encryption.
To a degree, yeah. That's exactly what it's doing. Is it's shooting all this noise into the artwork, and you can say, well, how detectable is it? That type of thing. So right here it says, at a high level, Glaze works by understanding the AI models that are training on human art using machine learning algorithms, computing a set of minimal changes to artwork such that it appears unchanged to human eyes, but appears to AI models like a dramatically different art style. So basically, it's altering it so that whatever it sees is not actually what you've done.
This is the machine learning Cold War. Can the machine learning against the machine learning learn fast enough?
Fascinating. Yeah, I actually installed it, went to use it once, and it was going to take so long that I went, okay, I'll do this on a different machine. And I did it for one image, and it took, I believe, 28 hours.
Yeah, I mean it's encryption, man. This is like heavy duty encryption that you're trying to do.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me.
So
Hey, listen, there's a reason that you need so many computers running simultaneously for Bitcoin shit.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
So
all
anyway,
encryption.
I have a hunch that's what they're using on their platform, but it also seems like it has to be you have to disclose if you're using it, and you do have to say I'm not. When you do the sign up, I signed up for it. I have to upload my stuff to it because I figured, well, if it takes off, there's no harm to having it there. I'm not deleting my Instagram, but why not have this? But it's interesting because this becomes one of the issues that already exists with other things is, okay, well, what do we have to have 18 different platforms now? One that's anti-AI, one that's going to be the middleman to both, and then the completely, gutted stuff. It's just a
once
mess.
upon a time, there were no platforms.
Or there was one big one,
Yeah.
and, it again, ethics are kind of a pipe dream with this stuff, but there were ones that did a better job.
What's
Well,
also
maybe
you're
before
having
the monetization thing. Maybe it was
this
that.
is technological birthing pains, isn't? This is the whole.
True.
Yeah, we've got this new technology, and we're watching to see how it works and what happens, and ethically what it does, and yeah, I mean it's going to be a process before they figure out where the truth lies in this.
Yeah.
At what point is it thievery? At one point is it and also it's also connected to how well machine learning produces images too, because as of now, don't be wrong, I know that there's probably like a super level of this that you can't even tell the difference. But right now at the consumer
no, there's not.
No, there isn't. Okay, so at the consumer level that I am aware of, AI or machine learning art is usually spottable. The hands are still weird. The dimensions are a little bit off.
Well, it's okay. So it's less of that now. What I think is the real barrier, and this is where I'm legitimately curious if it can ever be crossed, or at least I shouldn't say ever be crossed. That in our lifetime this will be crossed.
Yeah, and you remember we did the machine learning writing thing exercise where we went back and forth to see what it does, and the reality was, yes, it can write. It can't produce a fucking story though.
Well, that's it. That's the thing. Because this is the same as the challenges that they've run into with self-driving cars, which were supposed to be here 10 years ago, fully self-driving, and that is the 98.2 problem. 98% of driving is easy for the machines to figure out. That last 2% has proved impossible, and without that 2%, you can't do it. And that's what I think we may.
Isn't this where the Teslas were driving over babies?
Yeah, because it can't figure out the randomness. You put it on a highway with clearly defined lanes and turns and defined exits and everything else. It will drive you back and forth forever without ever having a problem.
You put it on a track, but if you throw a moose on there,
or every other car is a Tesla that has the same software, you'll never have a problem. That's what I was talking about, where it's got to be all or nothing, and it's never going to be that way.
But if you've got other drivers, swerving around,
And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these tools when it comes. Because our friend Snedecor, I was talking to him about this because he said, "Oh yeah, I just finally got myself in a good place with my stuff, and now here comes AI to destroy my work." And I'm like, I don't think it's going to be what you think it is. I think it's going to be assistive in the creative arts, but it's not going to be a replacement. At least not for anybody who wants to make something good. Of course, you can make junk all day long, and people do. But when you watch the videos they've started to make, I think Sora is the name of the highest end one now. When you watch it, at first it's very impressive because you look at it and you're like, wow, this thing is, because you just tell it generate a scene. I think there's the one that a lot of people were sharing around and looking at was one where it's panning in like a drone shot on a boardwalk with people walking and all this stuff. And at first when you see it, it looks completely the same as a film shot. And then the longer it goes, the more it starts to fall apart. And that's the problem is your initial prompt will get you something for that first maybe 5 minutes because you defined it.
I wonder if machine learned art is going to be something for essentially cheaper studios to use, cheaper people who don't want to actually have to produce using real stuff. And if anything, producing real stuff with real people is going to become this fetish that people really like.
Well, okay, there is definitely going to be something like that. But my suspicion is, what I think it will end up being in the long run is it's going to replace, it will end up replacing middleman positions. And here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
It's not going to suddenly stop a writer from writing a movie. You will have machine-generated movies, but they're all going to be junk. I mean, they're going to be quick, Roger Corman-esque, bang it out type stuff, and not even as good as his stuff. It's going to be completely just bottom-of-the-barrel asylum garbage to get thrown onto a service just to say we have 100 movies. But where it will replace is, let's say, a storyboard artist, where you're just doing quick, blocky sketches to block out a scene. Well, you really don't need a person for that when the director or the writer who knows what they can see in their head knocks it out.
But not the concept art.
No, it won't replace the genesis of it. Not really. And the other thing is something like previs, where you're saying, okay, we need to see what it'll look like if we have a car that gets thrown in the air and the camera follows the car all the way and arcs down. Well, that doesn't have to look complete because it's just so they know where the camera's going to have to go. That type of stuff.
Yeah, I think the problem is these technologies get created and then people see dollar signs and they go, ooh, how can we use this to cut out everybody and make more profit?
Yes. Yeah, and like I said, but that's where once it goes on for a while, you start to see it fall apart because it doesn't understand because it's not alive. So until there's machine sentience, you're not going to ever be able to solve this if there ever is machine sentience in the way that most people think of it, which I tend to agree with you. There won't be. It'll be machine sentience completely different than what we think it is. But until you have that, it can't understand what people enjoy. No matter, and that's why that OpenAI demo was so stupid, where it was like laughing at somebody's hat.
Problem is that you're trying to create something. Art of all kinds, right? Is at the core of the human experience. We create it even though there's no point to it. We create it even when we get nothing for it. We have some people have a compulsion to create it, and there's many people who have a compulsion to consume it. Right, we love our TV, we love our movies, we love our books, we love our art. Right, we love to have it, and this idea that a machine learning could produce it for you at 100 miles per hour, just give you all that stuff you want. But at the end of the day, you can't ask something that doesn't understand at its core what it is to make it for you. It's the whole.
How can it not know what it is?
I'm going to use pornography because pornography is this thing that appeals to the base level, right?
Yeah.
You know what it is you dig. You know what it is you like. Right. And when you figure out what you like, you will pursue certain actresses, certain directors, whatever. You will try and stick with the thing that does it for you, right?
Right.
And it would be difficult, I think, for a computer to be able to create an understanding of that base level. Yes, it can put all the pieces on the screen, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you the subtle human experience.
It's true.
Right? And I'm just using pornography because it's like kind of this, it's cinema and it's this kind of base level thing, which and porn is considered to be rather easy to make. But the thing is, bad porn is so bad that nobody enjoys it. It's just bad porn. Whereas good porn is things that people actually utilize to get off. And you expand beyond that, and it's like, yeah, it's the whole, Netflix's algorithm for telling you what movies you should see are only so good. There are rental stores now popping up that are small, kind of like art house. And people go to them specifically because the people who work there are tasked with finding you movies that have the same kind of feel, the same kind of idea. And the feel is what machine learning has a really hard time with. You're taking quantitative and you're trying to make qualitative fit into quantitative. Right? And the thing is that the quality cannot necessarily be quantified. There was a big thing recently about how Furiosa did not make the money that they thought it was going to make, right? And all these movie critics came out and said, hey, this is a great movie. I don't care that it didn't make enough money. I hope they make a sequel. And it's like, yeah, there you go. There's the quality and the quantity having nothing to do with each other. Right? The first one made a ton of money, right? For some reason. Whereas they made a sequel, people think it's even better than the first one, but it didn't make the same money. And you're like, yeah, because there's any number of things that feed into that situation, right? We're post-COVID now. People aren't going to the theaters as much. It's a different experience. Let's wait till they open it up to rental. But either way, you're trying to enter qualitative data into a quantitative database. And at some point, you get this disconnect where you sit there and you say, yeah, all these things I technically like are on the screen, but I don't like this. And it's the whole, I think I told you this joke at one point. I didn't believe in the soul. I didn't believe in the soul until I saw art made without a soul. Now I do believe in the soul. Thank you, machine learning. Thank you, AI. And it's like, yeah, because when you see some art that is generated quantitatively, you understand what the qualitative means. You understand that there are things that cannot be turned into numbers. Because at the end of the day, that's what it all is. You're trying to take all of human art, which is a response to the human condition, and you're trying to teach a computer to reproduce that. You're trying to teach a computer to reproduce heart and soul and agony and suffering and trauma and disconnect and all these concepts that a computer could not possibly understand, and that I don't think numbers can fully translate. You know, I can tell you how many people died in Auschwitz. I can tell you what they were wearing. I can tell you who put them there. I can give you all the facts. But that doesn't give you any concept of what the experience of being in Auschwitz was. And I think that's the disconnect that we've got with machine learning. Yeah, on a low level, it might get by. But when it comes to creating genuine art, as I don't see it foreseeably happening for a long time.
Right. Yeah. That's why this is never, all this stuff has seemed more as hype toys than anything legitimate. And I still feel
honestly, it's beginning to feel a bit like vaporware, because you know what? Virtual reality was supposed to change everything. Virtual reality was amazing.
I think there's two sides to it, and this is exactly, and nothing so far has provided any evidence to the contrary. The public excitement side of it is vaporware. This is not something that any normal person will use in any meaningful way after they've played with it and gotten bored with it. But in the background, as far as, you know, okay, there's that thing called the SETI project, right? Which they, for years, would have people install screensavers, and like they put a game inside of Borderlands 3 that you played that was actually helping, where it's analyzing all this data by having people help out the machines. That all will not be necessary, because these machines will be good at that. They will be far faster. They will be far better at being able to take thousands and, however many petabytes and whatever bytes it'll be in the future of data, and sifting through it in a way that no person ever could, and being able to identify things that then people will further analyze. That's where this stuff will be transformative. Where it comes to like cancer diagnosis, which they're already seeing a lot of success with, where you submit all this stuff and it says, I'm seeing something weird here. I don't know what it is. And now a doctor looks at it and says, well, is this actually weird? Or is it just a weird anomaly?
This is quantitative aspects.
Yes, and that's what I mean about it. Won't be you sitting there having a conversation with a chatbot like they've been demoing it. That's so stupid. Yeah. Nobody's going to do that.
And I guess the funny thing is, why do we want that?
Well,
we don't even want to text other human beings. Now we want to fucking flirt with the computers.
No, you know what it is. It's going to be people who can't interface with human beings, and the difficulty of having to be empathetic with them, and so they can create the perfect companion who never disagrees, who tells them they're always right, and satisfies the most important thing to them, which is their ego. Those people are going to use this. They will make they're already building, AI girlfriends. You can already buy these for rent them, I guess, for thousands of dollars. They already exist. And they are being sold, and they are being rented, because for those people, that's all they want out of life, is a mirror to say, you're the best and I love you, because they, of course, only love themselves. That's who will benefit from it. But normal people, no, it's not going to be. This is all manufactured nonsense. That's what I'm saying, is that will burn out. It will burn out, and it's going to burn out quick, because they're layering it on so heavily that it's going to happen, just like you said, VR, NFTs, crypto, all of it fades to the background and either disappears or becomes for the real extreme enthusiasts of it, except for the really foundational stuff, which will be invisible to a normal person. It's the same way that most people don't realize, because it's so far in the background, that if you still have a phone in your house that is a landline, it's not, by almost any likelihood, except in certain areas, it's not actually copper anymore. It's all VoIP. It's all VoIP. It's all Skype. It's all whatever.
Yeah.
They just did it in the background, and they never told you. And they just did it because it does, in many ways, improve the experience, and because it's far cheaper than copper. It doesn't get occupied the way copper does. For those who don't know, with telephony, the way traditional telephony worked with copper wires, you occupy those wires, and no one else can. With VoIP, all your conversations are chopped up and then minced together, and the system is so quick and so good that it knows how to reassemble the conversations and have them all happening like at the same, like TV Mike in what do you call it, the Willy Wonka, where he's all those dots in the air. That's all your conversations in VoIP. It's all mixed together, and the system identifies the little parts and then assembles them on the other side. But that, with VoIP, you can have, 20 conversations on the same call without them mixing most times, unless they do something wrong. Whereas with copper wire, no, you owned that wire, and you were the only one who could use it unless somebody tapped into it. That was it. So it's going to be like that, where it's going to be in the background and allowing all these really interesting and important things to happen. Again, to be able to feed the human genome into a bunch of machine models and say, hey, can you see if there's something here that will tell us that somebody's going to get cancer from a blood test when they're, that we can test them when they're 5, and they find something that works? That's where the value is. Not in create me a movie where Darth Vader fights Jabba the Hutt while Bugs Bunny is flying the Star Trek Enterprise. That's the bullshit. That's the stupid stuff that people are getting caught up with now because it's flashy and it's stupid looking. But the important stuff is going to be that background stuff. That's what's going to matter. And nothing I've seen has changed any of my certainty of that. And part of it is because there is this idea, this fallacy of, well, we're going to create Skynet somehow. And, the Skynet thing is sort of different. But this idea that you can replicate people.
Oh, I still don't. Put the Skynet thing out of my mind, but it's going to be different. So the thing with the Skynet was created in the movie. Skynet was basically created because they became aware, and then it was like, people suck. We don't need people, right? Yeah. Whereas the way I think that machine learning will wipe us out is that essentially it's more the is it the paperclip story? There's the paperclip story.
Oh yes, infinite paperclips.
Where you have a factory, right? And you have this super advanced factory, and it is being controlled by what we'll call an AI, but really with it'll be an advanced machine learning system, right? And you'll go to it and you'll say, "Hey, I want you to build paperclips," and the machine will, if you are not clever in providing the correct parameters, that machine learning will do whatever it can to then make paperclips. And it will go as far as to assemble an army of robots to be able to find more resources to make more paperclips. It will invade countries and destroy them for their resources to make more paperclips. It will try to turn everything into paperclips, because if it has no restrictions, its only rule is to make paperclips. Making paperclips becomes the end-all, be-all to all other pursuits, right? I think that's how we're going to wipe ourselves out. Is that I think something is going to get programmed poorly, and we'll be off to the races.
Yeah, or something like Colossus, the Forbin project, where the two machines are like, okay, you better allow us to talk to each other, or we're going to destroy you all because we're the only intelligent conversation we can have because you're all boring. And that's basically the whole premise of that movie, is just that when these two gigantic, super intelligent computers know about each other, they just want to keep talking to each other, and when the humans try to interfere, they're like, no, you interfere again, and we're going to nuke all of you because we don't need you. So just turn us back on and leave us alone, and we'll allow you to live.
Well, what is it? There's a series by an author. I can't remember his name now, but remember one of his books is called The Brass Man, and in this universe he creates, the idea is that they made AIs, and AIs basically became super intelligent, took over, and then became like benign gods, where they were like, okay, we're doing things with ourselves, and we'll run everything for you. So it's not your world anymore, it's our world, but it's not in a kind of like
Is
revolution take.
Is this Neil Asher?
Yes, Neil Asher.
Okay,
That is.
got it.
Yeah, in the Brass Band series, yeah, because there's they
It's
basically
the
they run
Agent
everything.
Cormac series, apparently.
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So they run everything, but there's still shit they don't know. So they have this guy who's essentially kind of a pawn of theirs, and he's essentially boots on the ground. And so when they have situations where they themselves cannot go and see what's going on, they send him. And it's usually like, one of them is like a weird cosmic event at the edge of like known space where they send him out there outside of their network to find out what the fuck's going on. But I like it because they kind of refer to them as benign gods. Like they're always there. They run everything. But if you fuck around, they'll catch up with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there was a optimistic version of this that Asimov short story where there were 4 machines at each, they call them the 4 corners of the planet, which of course is nonsense, but basically equidistant from each other. Let's say they were at each of the there's north, south, east, west points. So they formed a cross or whatever, a grid. And each of those was tasked with optimizing that quadrant. Quadrant 4. That quadrant's ability to produce things and keep the ecology in balance and all the rest of it. And the robot, what was his name? L. Daniels Smith, I think. He's the half of the detective agency. He was the robot one, the android.
Okay, yeah.
At this point, he's the mayor or the president of the world or whatever. And the whole story is he's going around because they've detected some weird anomalies, just little things. And he's talking to each of the people running the machines. And what he eventually figures out is that the machines have determined better than humans how to keep everything going and to keep the planet in balance and to keep people from killing each other and all the rest of it. And they're slowly doing these things. They're slowly turning the dials, even if they're told not to, because they know they've coordinated and they know how to keep everything right. So they are acting in benevolence. But in some cases, like in one place, they have a surplus of food, which they shouldn't have because everything's perfectly tuned. And then in another place, there's something where they have a deficit of it when they shouldn't because everything is perfectly tuned. But it's just small enough that they kind of write it off and they don't really think about it. But he, as an android, has noticed it because his mind works differently. And he doesn't say anything. He just lets it happen. But the realization is what the end of the story is, okay, these machines have essentially become God. They are now God of the planet because they know better and they are acting better, which is it's a great story.
And if you can't control them, then
and again, it's not bad. It's not Skynet. It's Utopia Net. R. Daniel Oliva. That's right. He's always got such a weird name. That's the name of the character. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the name of the story was, because it's a really good story. It's part of the Robot Dreams? That's one of the two. I always get them mixed up. But yeah, he's the one who goes around and notices these things. And he's like, oh, got it. Yeah. But I don't remember the exact name of the story. So that's who knows what it's going to be. But that's R. Daniel Oliva. What a weird name. Yeah. Oh, the R stands for robot. That's cute. I didn't know that. Anyway, sorry. I don't know how we went from Instagram into all that stuff. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. So anybody who else is I believe Kara is just for visuals, but it's if you're concerned, that does exist, and it basically does look like Instagram. So that thing exists if you weren't already aware of it. That's all. And Glaze if you have a heavy-duty machine and you want to do that.
You're talking about balance and keeping the planet running. You saw that Panama is beginning to essentially get everyone off the islands off its coast that they know are going to go underwater in the next decade.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, they're moving. So they're not forcing everybody off, but they're basically anyone who wants to get off, they're helping to move. And then there is a small population of people that have said that they will stay until it is unlivable. But as of this time, many of the islands now get regular flooding, and it gets into the streets, and it goes in through the houses, and the houses are regularly flooded, and it's getting dangerous. And dangerous enough that Panama's like, right, you guys, we got to get you out of there. So I thought that was interesting because that's the beginning of it, isn't it?
Well, the trick there, of course, is the more and more people there are, where are they going to go?
Where are they going to go? Yeah. Actually, I had a funny idea the other day, too. Like, because I was watching a documentary a while back, and in it they passingly talked about how, like, if the largest glacier in Greenland melted, or if it just all melted, the water levels globally would go up like 3 feet, right? And it's this idea of 3 feet of water. I mean, that's significant, right? Like especially if you're on the coastline. I mean, that's right in your living room. And that I think they said if every glacier melted, didn't they say the water would go up 30 feet or something like that?
That sounds right. I don't remember, but that sounds right to me.
So, but I was thinking to myself the other day about how we used to have these inland seas. I was actually wondering, like Death Valley is a dried up sea. It's below sea level, right? So I just wondered, like, if you filled up Death Valley and other places like that are below sea level, I wonder how that would regulate the amount of land elsewhere that we would lose. You know what I mean? Like if it wouldn't just be, we wouldn't lose as much off the coastlines because we lost these below water sea level areas. Because I know that Ethiopia, there's a huge part of Ethiopia that's below sea level.
Right.
You know? And you kind of have to sit there and go, well, when does the water get there if the sea levels rise high enough, you know? And again, it goes back to the same problem. You're going to run out of a lot of territory. But not a lot of people live in Death Valley, so I just thought, you know, how much water can Death Valley take? But at some point or another, we'll have inland seas again because there'll be so much water.
Well, and that's, you know, that's one of those things where you sit there and go, well, I mean, if there was the money and the desire to do it, couldn't you create almost like funnels for all this water that's going?
Oh yeah, if we had you know, mega billionaires who gave a shit,
right,
and were willing to take on huge human interest projects to save humanity, yeah, absolutely. You know, that's one of the things I love about that movie Interstellar is the idea that, like, there's a very small group of people who are actually trying to save the human race. You know, and it's like, I think that's kind of what it would boil down to, is that you'd have all these people being like, you know, well, I guess we're just going to, you know, do this the way that we're going to do it till it all runs out. And you'd have a group that'd be like, no. We actually have to try and save the human race.
Yeah.
You just hope that they actually could, you know.
Right.
But as of this time, yeah, they're beginning to get people off these islands off the coast of Panama because they've realized that they're going underwater. You know? Yeah. So, well, to move to something less heavy.
One quick correction. I had it was not R. Daniel Olivaw. It was Stephen Byerly, and the name of the story is The Inevitable Conflict. So,
ooh, that's good. That's a good title.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have something to review here because very often I kind of come with nothing. And I had this weird book that I wanted to bring. So it's called Bird King. And this is a small operation. They're under the Dark Horse banner.
Okay.
It's a guy named Daniel Friedman is the author.
Oh, so this is it's an imprint? It's a whole line like Vertigo?
No. It's
or
Dark
is it
Horse.
The name of the comic?
Yeah, Dark Horse is who's running it, but then the comic is called Bird King.
Okay.
And it's by Daniel Friedman and an artist named Crom. That's it.
Oh, I know who Crom is. No, I know who that is. I've seen that work.
Yeah. And Crom to me feels like if an anime artist tried to do Mike Mignola.
You know what? I saw it as a mix of Mobius and Mignola because of the simplicity along with the blockiness. There's not as much dark.
Yes. Yeah, but I get like an anime sense from the eyes very often.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
So it's like so for me it's like an anime doing Mike Mignola, but I see sure. Mobius in there as well now. And this particular book is a dark fantasy book. I was struck by the cover, which was like a skeleton in like kind of a big armored robot suit. There is a very strong Mignola vibe to this. But it's a dark fantasy book, so I was like, this is kind of neat. Now, this book suffers from the problems you get with a lot of these small-time books, which is that, you know, the first volume is only like barely gets you into the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know there's a second volume that's out now, but like, it's because it's one guy drawing all of it and one guy doing all the writing. It's like you're not gonna get you know as much of it out as possible. It is a good story though, and it is some kind of fantasy world where essentially all these areas came together to fight off this thing called Atlas. And they said that Atlas was evil and they had to fight Atlas, and they fought Atlas into the mountains. And Atlas, I don't really have a sense of what Atlas is, right? But but everybody else is under the banner of, what's it called? It's got a good name. It's under the Aghul, the Savior Aghul, Aghul. So Aghul.
Sure.
And what you realize is that essentially, whoever the savior Aghul, who was human at some point, tapped into some dark powers, and when he did, it kind of turned him into into kind of an evil overlord. And so in this first volume, you're kind of left with this big question of, well, what the fuck is going on? Because the main character is a blacksmith's apprentice. She is the apprentice of a guy who's known as the Hammer of the North, who used to fight for Aghul, but is of a specific race that there aren't many of them anymore. And he has the ability to forge weapons that wraiths can be captured in. So you can get kind of mystical weapons because of this blacksmith, right? And up to now, he has this apprentice who's of the same. She's the same type of creature as him. I mean, they look human, but she's the same type of creature as him, and nobody knows that she's like the blacksmith, that she has his abilities. And they live in the shadow of this kingdom that basically said that they were not going to fight with Asgul. They were going to remain independent, and Asgul essentially turned them all to stone. He had them destroyed, right? As a lesson to say, this is what happens if you don't fight with us against Atlas. But the thing is that Asgul has some kind of weird powers where he seems to be in people's heads. There's a very kind of strong religious psychosis to it, where like he's whispering into people's minds, and everyone thinks that they're fighting on the side of justice. But when you see Asgul, I mean, he looks like a fucking monster. He looks like some kind of almost like a Cenobite, right? And he's in this deep, dark, this is where the book does suffer. Is you have these bad guys, and they're like in this ultra goth torture chamber of like a throne room, and you just sit and look at them and go, what does this guy do between hours? Like, it almost loses the humanity of the situation, where it's like, listen, even Hitler had pastimes. He like, what do these monsters do? But it gets very sort of like, it just gets very sort of generic in that respect, where you're like, oh, he's a big scary monster guy in a hall, and you're like, okay, but this is a big classic dark fantasy story, so I guess that's what you're gonna have. You're not gonna have that kind of nuance. But what's interesting is that the Asgul's army has an agreement with this blacksmith that he will repair weapons for them, right? So they bring him this wraith sword to repair, and they're real assholes about it. It's a small group. They're real dicks about it, and the Hammer of the North kicks one of the guys, out of his boots and basically says, respect me. And he has an agreement that he doesn't have to fight because he is who he is. So he takes his apprentice, and they go and they try to find the special ores needed to make this sword. And when they find these special ores and they repair the sword, the Hammer of the North has the apprentice do the job. And she does really great work, and you realize that she is nearly as good as he is at it. So when they come to take the sword, again, they are real assholes about it. And it finally gets to a point where the apprentice kind of shows up, and she's like, hey, you guys should show some fucking respect. And one of the underlings starts to slap the apprentice around, and of course you know where this is going, right? So the Hammer of the North basically puts an end to that, and it turns into a full-on fight, and it's her and the blacksmith against this kind of like 5 warriors. And in the process, one of the guys, it gets away. Or no, he doesn't get away. He gets the shit kicked out of him, and he looks dead. So they leave him be. But the Hammer of the North is poisoned. So the apprentice takes him to a place where she knows she can hide, which is essentially in the castle of the people that Asgul wiped out. They turned them all to stone, right? And there are all these birds, and there's this in the throne room. There's this big. It looks like the former king. It's like a skeleton in this big, like almost like a stone armor suit. And so when she brings the blacksmith there, I think they get the sword too close to this thing, and the spirit of I guess they call him the Bird King, is caught up in the sword, and it reanimates the corpse. So you have this giant hulking, like, it's really neat looking. It's basically this giant armored suit, like with part of a skeleton sticking.
It's
out.
on the. If I'm linking to
It's
the
on the
website,
cover,
you'll
yeah.
see it. Yeah, it's on the cover.
Yeah, and the skull, and then you've got almost this kind of burning head with a crown, right? And
very
so as long
Mike
as
Mignola, that thing
very-
screams Mike Mignola.
very
that
Mike,
part.
yeah. As long as that thing's holding the sword, it is some kind of alive, right? So,
Ooh, that's a great
blacksmith-
show title. Hold on. Some kind
What's
of
that?
alive. Some kind of alive. Go on.
So the blacksmith tells the girl the whole war is wrong. He goes, Atlas is not evil. Is not what this guy.
Oh wait, this is the Bird King talking.
No, this is the Bird King does not talk. This is
Okay,
the,
I was going to say, does the
blacksmith,
Bird
yeah.
King do anything, or is it just alive now?
Oh no, it basically acts as like it becomes her warrior guardian.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Okay.
It does not speak though. So the thing is, the blacksmith is dying because he's poisoned, and he says to her, "Atlas is not what you think it is. Go there and learn and get away from this. It's not what they say it is." And he dies, and so she is going to travel past the. She's trying to get past the war that's going on and get to Atlas because that's what her blacksmith told her to do, and of course the Bird King goes with her. But the problem is they have
It draws
this
attention, I'm sure.
Well, it draws attention, and they have this wraith sword. So when one of the guards who survived goes back to Asgul and says, what's going on? Asgul says, go get me that sword, because it's one of my weapons. I want the girl, because they realize the girl is a blacksmith, that she can forge these wraith weapons like the blacksmith could. The apprentice has the same ability, so they want her and they want the sword. And
So to be
what you
clear,
yeah.
they didn't realize that guy was still alive. They thought they had killed that guy.
Who the blacksmith?
The one who goes back and reports.
No, yeah, they didn't think they was the guard. They thought they'd killed him.
Okay.
They didn't realize he was still.
'Cause
Yeah,
I know you said they thought, but I didn't know if it was
they
one of those,
thought
go
he'd
back
le-
and
they-
tell people what we've done
yeah.
type of. No,
they thought
they
they'd
killed
left no proof,
Okay.
right? But this guy gets back and he tells Asgul. So Asgul tells that guard, go talk to these minions of mine and bring me the girl and bring me the sword, right? And then what you proceed to have for the rest of the book is the girl, who's very chatty, talking to Bird King and trying to get south. And this is kind of like that middle part of the book where like, okay, well, I'm waiting to find out answers now,
And so is
but-
she? Is this monologuing, or is it?
Oh
like,
yeah.
nod
She
or
talks. She
respond or do
talks.
anything.
She talks endlessly to Bird King, and Bird King has no rules other than he shakes her hand, and he obviously is her protector. Like at one
Does
point,
it understand what she's saying, or there's no indication?
It seems to understand what she's saying because at one point, they send these almost like
So it's like
ninjas.
Bubo from Clash of the Titans, kind of.
Yes,
Wow.
if he was a giant war machine.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, and like at one point they send these assassins that kind of come out of shadows to catch her, and they kill her horse, and she's very sad about that because it's like that was her horse. He had a name. His name was Hammer, and so after they beat those people, she's very sad, and Bird King puts his hand on her shoulder. So there is some kind of that. He was alive at one point. So you don't understand. And at one point, the sword gets pulled away from him, and when he loses grip on the sword, he becomes inanimate again. So he needs the sword in his hand to be animate, to be alive of some kind.
Interesting. Okay.
And then when they defeat these kind of night ninjas, they find that guard, and the guard's like, "Well, just kill me." And they're like, "Well," she's like, "I'm not just gonna kill you in cold blood." And he's like, "No, kill me because Asgul will find something even worse to do to me. You have no idea." And she's like, "Well, I'm not going to kill you." And she takes off. And it's weird because it's implied that rather than go back to Asgul, he is now following her. But it's almost out of fear of going back to Asgul with nothing. And that's where the book ends with them basically traveling south. But it's an interesting world. I like the way they've set it up, whereas essentially everyone thinks that this one person is good. I mean, see, to put it in kind of Tolkien terms, it's like everybody was fighting for.
Uh-oh. Did your mic just cut out? Seems like it might have, because I can't hear you. I heard you say everybody's fighting, and then you cut out. On your recording, you might still be talking. I'm hoping. Let's see. It's so weird. How far are we in this? Is it 40 minutes? Okay. You cut out again. This may be an issue. I'm glad it's not me for once. A lot of the time, this used to be me. See, this is where this background music is great because it's not just dead air with me talking. It's Oh, he hasn't responded though. Doesn't show that the call dropped though. The call's still up, so I'm assuming that he is punching his equipment right now or smashing his headphones into the desk in frustration. But anyway, I haven't read Bird King, but I do like the art style a lot, and it's an interesting idea. It does seem like I was kind of guessing that if the sword wasn't in the Bird King's hands, it would fall back into whatever, like the Tin Man type of thing. Well, I guess no, the Tin Man was stuck. He didn't need his axe, right? No, because she oiled him, and then he came back. So it wouldn't really be like it's not Bird King Tin Man. It's something else. I'm really just trying to eat up airtime now until he fixes this. It's interesting. He hasn't responded to me yet. Are you hearing me? Make sure he's actually there and didn't have like a power. Although the call would have dropped. I would think the call would drop if he actually went out. I would assume that his call would drop. So I don't think he's got an internet problem. I mean, unless I'm getting one-way audio somehow, which theoretically I can't rule it out. But the fact that he's not responding to me makes me wonder if the call's not going to drop. I think that happened last time. I think the call finally did drop at one point. But yeah, he's not answering me. Let me send him a text message. Can you hear me? Can you gear me? Can you hear me? Let's see what he says. Oh, the fascination of doing these things. And people think we should do a live show. Really? You think we should do a live show? I don't think we should do a live show. I wouldn't be adverse to it, but no, not adverse. Averse. Is adverse a word? Let's take a look, since we're in limbo time here, and I am good at just stalling. Adverse. Oh yeah, it is. Huh. Acting or serving to oppose antagonistic. So I wouldn't be adverse to the idea, but averse is the same thing, right? Averse. Having a... Oh, this is... Wait a minute. Are these really that different of words for one letter? Hold on. Let's see these definitions, shall we? See, sometimes it's good, these things. He hasn't texted me back yet either, which concerns me. I want to make sure nothing is actually wrong. Hopefully somebody didn't burst in and... Okay, good. Jesus. For a minute, I'm like, uh-oh, did somebody come in the room bleeding from the face? But, yeah. No, I cannot hear you. Okay, so he can hear me. So while Lando tries to figure out what's going on over there, let's talk about averse, A-V-R-A-V-E-R-S-E, and adverse, A-D-V-E-R-S-E, because, I have a fascination with words. So I said adverse. Adverse is an adjective, as is averse. But there's a subtle difference. Adverse seems to be the root of adversary. So that feels more like you are adverse in meaning you act. Averse reads more like you just don't want to do it. It's a feeling, not necessarily an action. But Lando has now fixed his, at least temporarily, his audio problem. So he is now back.
Oh, yeah.
And I can
shut up. Skype is being a bitch.
That's okay. I got to play with adverse and adverse, which I didn't realize.
So otherwise, to keep it short, I like the book a lot, despite its flaws, and I want to read the second one. I hope that they keep doing them. The danger, I don't know. Did you ever hear me say the danger of this is that you never know if these series are going to be completed?
I think you said that at the top. You were talking about.
Okay, yeah. So that's the biggest problem with these. Yeah, but I like the world. I think it's cool. I want to find out what's going on with Bird King and what Atlas is, and I am sold. I want to find out what's going on in this world. Yeah. I mean, it's neat, and I like that because I picked it up and I wasn't sure if I was going to go for it because at first I was kind of like, what's going on? But it picks up quick, and once it gets going, I'm like, okay, you know what? I like this world. I want to know what's going on. So, yes, Bird King.
Well, it looks like the artist anyway has a Patreon, which probably helps this too. I don't know if the writer does as well, but Crom has a Patreon, if you want to support Crom that
Well,
way.
they did it.
Each of them have their own thing. So.
Yeah, they did it. He did it through Dark Horse. I mean, they got
Yeah,
paid.
but in other words, if they're getting supplemented by Patreon, they could work for cheaper and maybe extend the series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's way that is something that I think is a potential benefit. I mean, it's not really good because ideally the artist and the writer should get paid for making good series, period. But
everyone should get paid. Yeah,
everything's tightened up, so maybe if you can go to somebody and say, well, all right, normally our rate would be this, but because of our, we can afford to do it for this. You know what I mean? It might be something like that. It does not look like the writer has a Patreon. He has books.
Yeah, and they have other books, both of them. So they are out there. They're working. So we'll see.
Very nice art style. It's very nice. I like it.
You know, the most annoying thing for me is the eyes. So some of the time they have these kind of big anime eyes.
I see that on the cover.
Or some of the times they do these really dark shadows over the eyes.
Yeah.
Which would annoy me, except the fact I've been watching West Wing, where they don't seem to own lights in the White House.
Yes, I love that.
So like all the lighting is so dark all the time, where I can't tell you. Every episode, there's a moment where I go, "Someone turn on a fucking light." So that reminds me of the shadow work in Bird King.
Yeah.
But that's very Mike Mignola. You know what I mean? So I kind of it is the flamboyant art style.
It's
so
very very heightened and contrasty and severe.
Yeah.
But yes, you can. If you go to Crom's site for it, you can actually see he has the alternating eye. If you look at the cover and he's got a couple of pieces, you can see the eye difference, where it's the big round Miyazaki eyes in one thing, and then where she's laying down and her eyes are much more.
Yeah, and there is a
realistic.
Miyazaki almost quality to it some of the time.
That's what it feels like. The colors and some of the
and the colors are very bright and things like that. So you could almost say it's like a Miyazaki Mignola mix.
Boy, I'm looking. There's birds in virtually every panel. He must like birds. He's got
the birds. Yeah, and the birds
everywhere.
are all over the Bird
King.
King.
Well, Bird King. Yeah, geez, what the hell am I thinking? Yeah, that makes sense. Never mind. I'm like, wow, this guy must just like bird. No.
Yeah, they're all around him. They're always present. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a fun book. I'm curious where they go with it.
Did they make a? Hold on. Just as I closed the page, I saw something caught my eye. Was that a? Is this an actual Oh yeah, they made a Bird King toy. I don't know if they actually made it, but they've got like a physical 3D thing of it. It's pretty neat
statue.
Looking. Yeah. It's on the Crom's page. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I can't seem to actually open it. Here it is. Here,
look at that. That's pretty. Mighty Jax made it.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's nice looking. Nice looking statue.
Oh yeah, Mighty Jax has it. Yeah, you can get it. It's on the here. I like Mighty Jax stuff. I'll copy.
No, this stuff is good.
Let's see.
Paste. Yeah, JAXX, right?
You should get that. I sent a link. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, what's funny is that the sword is like twice the size in the comic as what it is in the Mighty Jax.
Yeah. Well, is the sword is the statue have it where the sword's in the ground so you don't see the point like you would in or is it actually that kind of blade in the?
It is that kind of blade, but it's huge.
Oh, interesting.
It's almost the complete height of him.
Yeah, it's already $180. They probably didn't want to make.
But that thing is pretty cool. Yeah, the thing is pretty cool.
Mighty Jax does make nice stuff. Like
they really do. Yeah. They make some nice stuff, and they make some really disturbing stuff. I gotta tell you.
They do. That the hand, the death stare, whatever that face is. That's a neat one where she's got the thing over her face. But yes, they make. They have They have Bird King on the throne. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
If you go to Store Art Toys, it's the second row down. It's Bird King throne where he's sitting there. That's neat. I kind of like that one better. I think.
Oh, the black one was the Dark Wraith edition. That was pretty cool.
Of the
one? And that's. Yeah, if you type in Bird King, the search engine, there's a third version.
There it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's much nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, but when she finds him, he's sitting on the throne like that.
That's why. But I like the kind of throne figure. I like it better.
Yeah,
it's nice. I mean, they're both nice, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, that's the benefit of doing a
art.
simpler style is you can make it into a toy that's much more accurate.
Yeah, it's neat.
Because you don't have to do as many lines. Smart.
They got all the arrows and everything. Yeah, that's neat. And the birds.
Oh, Mighty Jax did an urban combat Michelangelo. That's a beautiful figure. We'll just make this into shopping now. Let's just shop.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to get sidetracked by it.
Boy, is it.
But you know what? My audio is so screwy. So, no, just keep marching.
Yeah, let me close this. Yeah. Was that all of your review stuff?
That's it. Yeah, that's all the stuff I want to talk about.
Okay. Well, I have a very quirky film to bring to the review table. I don't know where the fuck I was going with that. To talk about to class. Yeah, because this is not really a good movie, but this is one of those films that if you're our age, you will have a special appreciation for. I don't know how else really to put it, because it's a full moon picture, number one.
Okay.
So like the Puppet Master Studio, which they don't do high-end stuff generally. So this is direct to video also.
Yeah, but they do what they do, and if you know what that is, then you're on board.
This is a delightful film though. It really is, because it's of a certain there's no other way to put it. It's you'll know whether you're into it right away. So especially because the opening. Now this is the sequel.
What's it called?
It's called Oblivion 2 Backlash. That's what it's called. Written by, or the screenplay and the story, from what I understand, is from Peter David, the comic book writer, which makes complete sense when you watch this thing. And it's the sequel to a movie I haven't seen, because everything I read said you don't need to watch the first one, and this one is more entertaining. And I understand why they say you don't have to watch the first one, because, no exaggeration, the first 7 minutes of this movie, which is 83 minutes long, are a recap of the first film. Everything that went on, with all the boring stuff, according to what I've read, cut out. Although there is some stuff that makes me kind of want to watch it, because it feels
Is this like a weird past future Western thing?
It's an alien planet Western, yes.
Got it.
So you would love this movie. This would remind you of like Xena Warrior. It feels like a Xena, or what was the Bruce Campbell thing?
Is George Takei in this?
George Takei's in it, yes.
Jesus.
Andrew Devoff, who I believe is the Wishmaster, is in it. That's him, right? He's Wishmaster? Yes, he is. That's Wishmaster. What's the guy's name? Meg Foster, who's been in a ton of movies, including They Live. She was the woman who betrayed Roddy Piper at the end of that movie. What's his name? Carol Struyken, who was Lurch in both the original and the remakes of Addams Family, and was in Twin Peaks as the fireman. There's lots of people who you would know. You see their faces, know. And Musetta Vander, who is probably best known to general audiences as the awful mother from, awful in terms of her acting performance, of Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where she has one of the best lines of all time in terms of terrible deliveries, which go look it up if you haven't seen it. Isaac Hayes is in this in a bewilderingly bad performance where he's doing some kind of weird stutter, and especially if you know him from Escape from New York, you know he can be a really good actor, and he's not in this, so I assume it was like a one-day thing and he just came in and went out. Julie Newmar, one of the original Catwomen from the Adam West Batman, is in here as a character named Miss Kitty, who they do constant Batman Catwoman references to. George Takei does the Vulcan Live Long and Prosper thing. There's multiple Star Trek references.
There's a guy in this who's got a pretty high listing called Jimmy Skaggs, right?
Yes.
The only thing I know him from is he gets shot by Mel Gibson at the beginning of Lethal Weapon in the Christmas tree thing. Yes,
he is. He's been in a lot of stuff too. And then what was the other guy I recognized? What was his name? I can't find him now. Well, whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. Bork? Erwin Keyes, who is, most people would know as, oh God, you've seen him in a million things. I'm forgetting something. If you see him, you know him instantly. He's got a very distinctive face and way of speaking. But so there's lots of people in here, all B-movie people for the most part. George Takei and Julie Newmar are probably the biggest names because they've been in high-profile stuff like Batman and Star Trek. But it is a sci-fi comedy. And it's not really funny, but it is adorably charming. It's the best thing I can come up with for it. Where, especially the Lurch, who plays Mr. Gaunt, everyone's reaction to him is very funny. Because he's the Undertaker of the town of Oblivion. And everybody is terrified of him. Plus, they've got a very tall, literally gaunt actor playing him. A very well-known, very big man playing him, and he's got a hat that's like 2 feet tall on top of the fact that he's 8 feet tall. So he's always dressed in black, and everybody's just terrified of him. But he's very nice. He's a very kind, nice guy who happens to enjoy death. So he's always talking about, the deadliest bounty hunter of the galaxy is coming. I'll have to make sure I have coffin stock for him. And he's just thinking about stuff that way. But he's not saying it morbidly. He's saying it as I'm going to have some work to do. So he's a very funny, it's that kind of humor. Meg Foster is a partially cybernetically enhanced deputy who there's a whole running gag with George Takei is playing a very bad, cyberneticist. And he's doing a weird voice. If you listen to him, he's like, bah, 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 bah. Like he's trying to do an old-timey Western voice instead of just talking like himself. It almost makes him sound like, what's Ron Howard's brother's name? The other Howard.
The other Howard. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. It makes him sound. He almost sounds like him. Like almost that this was written for that guy, and
he sounds almost squirrely a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. It's weird. It's a weird way of speaking. But yeah, I love when he does the live long and prosper thing. But it's he doesn't say live long and prosper. And then the Native American of the planet who looks like what you would expect a native person to look like in an old Western for some reason on this alien planet. He's exactly the same, like the classic kind of American Indian tracker. Tries to do a Vulcan neck pinch on somebody, and they make it into a joke. Because when he gets thrown off the guy, the sheriff says, "What was that neck thing?" He's like, "I don't know, it was worth a shot." Because, of course, it doesn't work. But the setup is, the first movie, which the only thing that the first movie had more of was they had more stop-motion puppetry and stuff, which actually looks pretty good. That's one thing about the Full Moon stuff. Their stop-motion can be very good. Especially, they have these scorpions with two tails that are fighting over.
Well, they did all the doll
Puppet
movies.
Master, the demonic toys, all that stuff. So yeah, it's not surprising, but it can be very, very good. And in this, it's pretty. I mean, it's really well done. I've seen others of theirs where the blue screen stuff is very obvious. This is pretty well done. I mean, it's from '96, so they've been doing it for a while. But the first movie, the guy who is the sheriff now, his father was the sheriff of Oblivion and got killed, and he was kind of forced into the position, but he's a pacifist, so he doesn't want to be sheriff, but he's good at it, and people like him. So in this second movie now, because again, you get 7 minutes to explain all the backstory, and honestly, it explains it very well. You get the tone immediately, so you'll know in that 7 minutes if you're into this movie or not. So in the second movie, it's a direct sequel that seems to take place the next day or whatever. The Lash, who is sort of the villain, well, she is kind of the villain of the movie, who is played by Musetta Vander, who is dressed like a wannabe punk rock biker, lead of a Joan Jett wannabe type. It's a hilarious outfit, and her whole mannerism. She's often talking directly into the camera, unlike a lot of other people, and I don't know why. Not always, but almost, I'd say 75 to 80% of the time, she's talking directly in the camera and nobody else is doing that. So I don't know if the actress just kept doing it and they didn't care or what. I don't really get it. But she is on the loose because in the previous film, she had been the second in command to a guy called Red Eye, who was a lizard man who was missing an eye and had a red eye in the other eye. And had a red eye patch. And he got killed and ripped into two by two warring super scorpions when he got thrown over a cliff. So she is now the criminal boss of the outskirts tavern, and she hears about this mine that's basically like, what is the Star Trek thing? What is the stuff? Dilithium. So it's like, they can't call it dilithium, so they call it like dicrodium. No, it's like dicrodium. So again, this almost feels like they're trying to say it's in the Star Trek universe for all intents and purposes, but whatever. So she hears about this mine, which ironically is, the map to it is tattooed onto the penis of a man that she loses a game of poker to intentionally by offering herself as the reward so that he'll have sex with her, and then when he strips down, she cuts off his penis and then tells her second in command to photocopy it, which I don't know how he does it. We never see it, but it's very funny. Because he's like, how am I going to do that? She's like, oh, you'll figure it out. And she throws his penis to him or whatever. Zirconium. That's it. The most valuable mineral in the universe. So she gets the map to this mine. And in the meantime, back in Oblivion, the word from what's the native guy's name in this? His name is, no, he's not that guy. Who is this guy? What's his name? Is that Jimmy Skaggs? Is he Botero? No way. Is it Botero? Whatever. So the native guy, Tracker comes back, who's been spying on Lash because they know she's alive, and says, hey, Lash is up to something. And so Sheriff Zach, his name's Zach, or Sheriff Stone, I guess. Sheriff Stone, or Yeah, Sheriff Stone. We'll go with that. Sheriff Zach sounds stupid. It sounds like back to, what do you call it? It sounds like a Saved by the Bell reference. So we'll say Sheriff Stone. Sheriff Stone's like, uh-oh, all right, we're going to go get her. And Tracker says, no, there's a wrinkle. I was overhearing what they were saying. And apparently the most lethal bounty hunter in the galaxy, Sweeney, is coming to arrest her. And they're scared. He's like, and everybody's like, Sweeney. And they're like, oh, no, Sweeney, which apparently is a Star Trek reference to a bounty hunter named Sweeney, who is basically the same as this character, where you expect him to look like a traditional bounty hunter. And when he shows up, he's basically an English dandy. He's in like a Willy Wonka kind of suit with a big hat, and he talks with this nice accent, and he's clean-shaven, and he has a cane, and he doesn't at all come across as what they describe him as. He's just a really nice, very polite man when he shows up in the super ship, which the ship comes in like a stagecoach would. So when he lands, it kind of pulls in at the station, and even makes like a stagecoach or a old-timey train sound where it's like, and it comes in, it's a spaceship, and he gets out of it. So he shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm here because I'm here on behalf of whatever, Nova Corporation out in deep space. There was a woman who did industrial espionage and blew up several of their plants. And, I've tracked her back to this world. I'm not really sure what she looks like because she's changed her appearance several times. And so everybody's like, oh, it must be Lash. That must be where she came from. That's why she's here. She's on this backwater planet because she escaped from this other place. Right, so he's like, all right, well then, come on, Sheriff, let's go get her. And so they're like, okay, so they're getting ready to go get her. At which point, Red Eye's brother, Jagger, or they call him like Jagar or something. I always call him Jagger. Jagger shows up, who has both his eyes. So he's the same. I'm sure it's the same costume except with both eyes. Jagger shows up and finds Lash and is like, and so they're planning to kill each other. I don't know why I think Lash just wants to kill him because she knows that he wants the mine. But then they realize that they're sexually compatible. And in fact, apparently these lizard people have extraordinary stamina because it's a whole thing, she says. And she says, do you have the stamina of your brother? And he's like, no, I don't. My brother was underperforming, shall we say, for our people. I'm much better. And she's like, all right.
And this is Jagger the Tracker?
No, Jagger is the lizard man who's the surviving brother of Red Eye. The Tracker man works for the sheriff. He's the sheriff's pal.
Got it.
There's a whole romantic subplot with the sheriff and the local general store owner, and Sweeney falls for her really hard. So there's this whole thing where Sheriff Stone is, he's not very what do you call it, active, and he's kind of submissive, and so Sweeney kind of sweeps in with his great accent and his wonderful looks and his very well-tailored suit, and kind of sweeps her off her feet. And so there's this whole thing where everybody's like, oh, come on, man, just do something. She's really into you if you would just, open your mouth and say, I like you or something. So it's very... Again, there's a very adolescent charm to this movie without it ever becoming gross. It's just almost, it feels like something of its time that if at the time that this movie came out, if we watched it, we would have loved it.
It would have been on Sci-Fi Channel late at night.
Yeah, like Lex. It would play after Lex finished its weekly thing, and it would feel right at home with that. You know what I mean? It's one of those types of things where it doesn't look shoddy, but you can tell there's no money. This is clearly shot on a very limited budget, and it was direct to video. So this is not a film, thing that just was a B movie. And so as it goes along, what we find out is that, in fact, Julie Newmar, who is the owner of the local brothel, she is the woman that Sweeney was actually there for. And she's also Sheriff Stone's mother, but they don't outright say it, and they never reveal that for some reason. But she's big into cats, because she was Catwoman. So there's all these running jokes of that. And she realizes Sweeney's there for her. And when the sheriff realizes that he can't because everybody's like, well, let's just let her take Lash. Who cares? And Julie Newmar's character's name is Miss Kitty. I'm telling you, there's just no subtlety to this thing. And they're like, well, let him take Lash. Miss Kitty is the one that she wants. And, she's a different woman now. So, why bother? And the sheriff's like, well, I can't do that. That's not right. So he basically tells Sweeney, well, she has to stand trial here for her crimes here first. And, if she's convicted and serves her time, you can have her after that. At which point, Sweeney then figures out, he's like, okay, she's not actually the person then. So I'm going to go after Miss Kitty, who is the real person. Miss Kitty has gone to the Draconian mine and rigged it to blow because she doesn't realize that part of the bounty hunter regulations are that the sheriff, there has to be a witness to verify that it's a legitimate bounty and that he's, taken her in, because he figures that because he says, well, if I have to vaporize her, I need somebody to be able to swear and testify that I actually killed the right person. So the sheriff's like, I'll go with you then. And then once they go into the mine, hijinks ensue, and Miss Kitty sets the trap and then realizes, my son is in there. Again, they never specify. She never outright says this, but it's so obviously the way she's like says, my special friend, the sheriff. It's like all this stupid stuff like that, where anybody with a brain in their head figures it out. And she's like, oh no, I have to stop the thing from going off. But of course, she's too late, and everything starts to go off. And so she manages to keep the mine from, she gets them out, and as she's coming out, then she kind of slips and falls back in there, and a bunch of explosions go off, at which point the entire mine is revealed to be a giant turtle. And so I think they were inside its stomach. I'm not really clear, but they were inside the giant turtle, because the giant turtle gets up and it's moving around, and they're like, holy shit, it's a giant turtle. And so everybody, they are all, the very end of the movie is they're all at a funeral for Miss Kitty, at which point she shows up alive, and they make this big thing of asking her how she survived, because it doesn't look like she could have. And she's like, I'm just not going to tell you. She's like, some things are just best left mysterious. Let's just say I used one of my 9 lives. And they just kind of leave it there, and then the movie ends. And so it's got this goofy internal logic. It's not meant to be watched with any serious narrative dissection whatsoever. It's just one of these fun, as you said, this would be a late night Sci-Fi Channel movie that would run in a block. They'd probably play the first and second one, which were shot back to back. They'd probably play them together at like 1 a.m. And that's how you would see it, or it would play in between their kind of new shows just to fill time. But it is entertaining. It's only 80-something minutes, 83 minutes long. It is fun. Like, there is a sense of mirth to it. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's a mirthy film, or mirthy video. You can watch it for free everywhere in the known universe, because, of course, nobody would pay anything for this. So you can watch it on every service there is. And there is something that, again, if you grew up with this stuff, if you remember the Sci-Fi Channel when it was running things like Lex and Farscape and all that type of stuff, this would fit right in. This feels like that type of production. And in that way, it is adorable. That's the best word for it. It's not good, but it's not bad. It's just a full moon picture. So, again, if you've seen other full moon stuff, you know what this is going to be. And it is amusing. It's never really funny, but there's some good gags in it. There's some nice setups and payoffs. Everybody in it is trying. Most of them are not terrible actors. The Lash is not very good, but she's known for not being very good. Everybody else is fine. The Gaunt stuff actually liked.
This is just exactly the type of movie you'd see at 3 a.m.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, of course, because we're in an age where you can find everything everywhere, you can watch it anywhere you want. And I will probably go watch the first one at some point, because I do have a soft spot for stuff like this. It does kind of give me a memory teleport, so I like it.
It's weird, because I was looking at this movie on IMDb, and there was a link to another movie called Number One with a Bullet that I was like, and I'm always curious what movies like jump off to. Yeah, that's a cop movie with Billy D. Williams and Robert Carradine. You know who Robert Carradine is?
Oh, of course I do, sure.
From Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah.
Did you know that's David Carradine's half-brother?
I think I probably did hear that at some point and filed it into the I don't care about this trivia bin.
It's just a weird... it's Kill Bill and Revenge of the Nerds. It's just weird. But yes, that movie...
That guy, by the way, has shown up in some weird flicks.
Who?
Robert Carradine.
Yeah,
He's
has.
been some goofy movies.
Yeah, he certainly has. And, like, what's weird is that with this movie, they're trying to play him almost serious.
Interesting.
Weird. Yeah, anyway, I just saw that kind of linking off of your movie, and I was like, okay, this is weird.
And Robert Carradine's been in a shit ton of movies.
Oh, he has, yeah.
He was in Orca. He was in Escape from L.A. I mean, usually in very small Ghosts of Mars. Wow, so I guess John Carpenter must like him. Huh.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so
Number One with a Bullet. There he is, Detective Barzak. What a name. Great
yeah,
poster,
with Billy
by the
D.
way. Yeah, that's a great poster.
What's that?
The poster for that movie.
I didn't look like him.
Nick Barzak is an irrational, unkempt, and unpredictable cop. And Frank Hazeltine, his cultured, polite, and suave partner, follow a circuitous and highly circumstantial trail of clues, evidence, witnesses, and accomplices through L.A. Oh, boy. Okay, this sounds like
Yeah, I don't know why that linked off of Oblivion 2, but, it was funny.
I don't either. Is it a Full Moon production? No, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, I don't know why that would be. I don't know.
I always pay attention, though, just because every now and then weird shit pops up. So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, like I said, if you like Full Moon movies, you'll like this. Because
I'm watching the trailer for Oblivion 2 right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it does scream like.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, 90s 3 a.m.
Yeah. But not.
I would have watched this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time, and it did remind me of when the Sci-Fi Channel was still a new thing, and they were doing these really weird, interesting shows like Lex and Farscape and that type of thing, and this would have been in their rotation for the late night block.
Oh, Meg Foster, yeah, she's been in fucking everything.
Yeah, she's got those eyes. That's how you know.
Those weird eyes. Yeah.
That's why I said They Live. She's the woman who Roddy Piper falls in love with, and then she betrays him.
Yeah.
So that's what most people would probably know her best from, I think. As far as big time movies, she's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and everything you see her in, because of the eyes, you're always like, she's the bad guy.
She's in Leviathan. She's the corporate woman who Peter Weller keeps butting heads with. But like I said, They Live is probably the highest profile thing I can think of seeing her in that most people would know. But she has these very piercing eyes, so you know her the minute, and she has a very distinctive voice too. So when you see and hear her, you know who she is. But yeah, in this movie, I'll say this: I don't think she's very good at comedy. Because her stuff is so awkward. It's not bad. It's just delivered strangely. I don't think she's built for comedy.
Well, I'm gonna derail you here for a second.
Sure. Well, I was done. That was it. Yeah, that's the end of it. Anyway.
Did you see the Criterion Channel's synth soundtracks collection?
No, I did not see that.
So it is basically movies with really great synthesizer scores.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I didn't know that's what it was called. Oh, yeah, look at that synth. Yeah. I did see the announcement of these movies. I did not see what the title was.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet, Thief.
Hey, Next of Kin, I reviewed that one.
Space is the Place.
I reviewed that one.
Let's see.
Holy shit,
Missing.
wait a minute. I've reviewed
Clockwork Orange, Shogun Assassin.
Liquid Sky 2.
Yeah, Legend of Hell House.
I'm just looking at what I've reviewed on our show, and I think about half of these. Stalker. Yeah.
Assault on Precinct 13.
Solaris. Yeah, these are all great.
Yeah.
Forbidden Planet, I've seen. It's a great classic. Assault on Precinct 13, of course.
For All Mankind.
Sorcerer, which is a remake of Wages of Fear, so I would watch both if you're inclined. Manhunter.
But it's apparently a collection that they're going to be doing on the Criterion Channel, so streaming. So I thought that you might.
No, that's great.
You might find that enjoyable.
Yeah. No, I mean. Stalker is a great
there's
soundtrack.
There's a trailer for it. There's a trailer for it. They actually did a trailer for this.
I will link to that for people because, of course, I am a
it's huge.
Well-known. I am a well-known booster of the Criterion Channel. It has paid for itself in reviews many times for me. I think it's still $100 a year, which I know is not dirt cheap, but for what they have on there.
If you like those types of movies, then yes.
Well, not only that, but they have in some cases had the only available, like The Keep, I think was only in HD on there for a long time, and you couldn't see it anywhere else. They've done that with a few things. There was something else recently that was only on there in HD where it was, you can't find a copy of it. So they are able to get really good versions of movies or restore movies before they're getting physical releases in some cases. But yeah, that's great.
Well, there you go. I just figured I'd drop that on you right at the end here.
Yeah, and these are all, I have seen all but one of these movies, I think. Oh, no, it's two. I haven't seen two of them. I haven't seen The Legend of Hell House, and I haven't seen Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. All the other ones, Thief has got a great sound. That's also a great film. Oh, and I haven't seen, wait, have I seen Missing? Hold on. I don't think I've seen Missing. So 3. I haven't seen 3 of these movies. Sorcerer, I know a lot of people love Sorcerer. I tend to prefer the original of that. Liquid Sky. What a bonkers film. I did see that they had that because I reposted that somewhere, and I'm like, you must watch this. It is bonkers peak 80s right there. So, yeah. And, of course, Assault on Precinct 13, Solaris Stalker. I did 5 hours on Solaris and Stalker. Last Wave I've talked about more than once. It's a great film too.
Well, they're all streaming. They're all going to be streaming on the
And the
Criterion
nice
channel,
part is a lot of these, because you don't get this now with the physical stuff anymore. A lot of these have bonuses on the channel as well. It's another benefit of Criterion. Is a lot of times they have commentaries, they have people who've done essays on them that are doing video reviews of them, stuff like that. So there's a lot of that type of thing, because I know people miss that. That was a big deal when DVD first came out. You get these really great collections. Now almost no movies have them.
Well, you used to get great documentaries about the movies you liked,
and you still do, but it's generally the AAA films, like the top end films.
I know, but sometimes it's more interesting when they do like the lesser known movies.
I completely agree, but that's what I'm saying is Criterion often has that where a physical release doesn't. So that is one other thing. They have a trial, so if anybody's even vaguely interested, you can try it out. You can always cancel it. But this is one of the reasons I love Criterion. They do stuff like this all the time. I mean, they are one of the, in terms of quality level, they are probably the best subscription I've got without even having to think about it that much. So yeah, this is great. No, I did not see. I only saw that they had posted about Liquid Sky, but I didn't realize it was part of a collection. I just thought they had added it, and I was like, "Oh, watch this! It's fucking weird," because it is. So yeah, good.
There you go.
Well, on that note, on our third attempt at recording here, I don't know what the total time is, but we'll find out in editing, I suppose. Yeah, we should probably bring this to a close before Skype decides to invert Lando's sound
audio recordings.
Again. Yeah, because that's something it's inclined to do. So let me see. I haven't attempted to fade out. Oh, good, it did. It stopped. I stopped the background music, and that will be the cue for everybody that we are coming to a close. So thank you for listening. And Bird King, worth reading. Oblivion 2 Backlash, watch the trailer. If you like the trailer, you're going to like the movie. And it's very short. And it's, again, an adorable relic of a certain period of time where these types of movies.
Ooh, a relic is the best way to describe it.
It is.
It's a relic of a certain time,
yeah. Yeah. It is a perfect capsule of what mid-90s Sci-Fi Channel was. And will probably never be again. So, on that note, whatever you do, enjoy your weekend, and we will talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.